Okay, so the next item that we're going to cover on the agenda is the business CTE application. So just to give you some idea of the progress from the last time we met to this point now, we're happy to say there was a lot of preparation work and a lot of articulation between teachers, specialists, counselors, administration. So one of the things that we did is we met with all of the teachers that are currently in the business department down at the high school to articulate with them, what are your suggestions for moving forward with the courses. We've also talked with the students. We have two students on our student advisory board. We held an additional advisory board meeting because in order to submit a CTE application, you have to have at least 2 formal CTE advisory board meetings. We also had meetings and articulation between the middle school and the high school guidance. Even though the CTE, business CTE will formally start, the curriculums that we're using start in 10th grade. So the students do have time when they get to the high school to be introduced to, the CTE and what it includes and what the advantages are.
Yes. Could you see what the acronym stands for?
Sure. Career Tech Ed, Career and Technical Education Program.
Thank you.
Of course. So it's important, knowing from running these types of programs before, that you provide that insight and that support to the students at the middle school level, and the counselors are, primarily the ones who talk with them about their schedules. So we wanted to make sure everybody was on board and everybody was aware of what courses were going to be involved in the CTE, what the highlights are to the CTE programs, what advantages they offer. And then we went to each of the middle schools for their scheduling, meetings. It was a combination of many administrators, guidance was there, and we spoke to the students, as they started their scheduling process to say, hey, these are the things that are, coming up your way, like the guidance counselors talked about, just a natural day, going over to the high school, what that would include. They talked to the students about how everything that, there's so many offerings at the high school and how there's something for everyone, whether it be a club or activity, a sport. So to kind of take advantage of that, to get the full, high school experience. And then each of the directors spoke to their area in regards to one of the things that I talked about was the CTE program, and I also talked about American Sign Language for world languages. So each of the department directors talked about their particular content area and gave updates on that, just so the students would have an idea of excuse me, what was included in each. Say Mr. Graziano, he talked a lot about the arts pathway. Mr. Kushner talked about math and science and the different programs that are available there. So just so we could give the students an overall arching introduction to the high school, and then Dr. Trudell and Ms. Nicholas talked about, just took a lot of questions that they had in regards to high school life and what that included. And then I'm happy to say, after everybody's hard work, on January 23rd, we have the formal email that our CTE program application was approved. So we're very excited about that. So we made everybody aware that we will be able to offer that in September. Any questions about that before I go forward? Okay. So this year we started to explore trades programs for students, because this is something that has come up before my time, but we moved into exploring it. So we had a meeting, I believe last time we met, we talked about, we had an introduction meeting. It was a colleague that I was aware of from another district. They introduced me to this gentleman, Mr. Tom Summers, who runs a carpentry program. So the team here had a virtual meeting with him to kind of talk about his program. And as we went through that, I had several communications with him, and he said, well, I just want to highlight some other, schools that are doing some really amazing things in regards to the trades. So he brought up Gateway Regional High School, and he also brought up Roxbury School District. So in December, we had a meeting with Gateway Regional, And this is just some of the information that they shared and the projects that they're working on. So we talked with Melissa from Gateway, and she had a very cool, I can't remember you referencing it, like title. It was like career facilitator, counselor. And a large part of what she does is like she goes out into the community, she networks, she builds relationships with communities and businesses to provide these opportunities for students. And then we spoke with Chris, one of the teachers of the program. He was on the call as well. So these were some of the things that they were doing. So they really put a focus on all of their programs are like, career-oriented, career pathways. They talked a lot about, the networking piece. She spends a large amount of her time doing that. They built a partnership with PSENG, which provided opportunities for students there. So it was really interesting. I believe that we said that, towards the spring we were going to try to go visit there to kind of see their program, but they have many different programs. They're very generous. They were just sharing different things that they were doing in regards to their program. But it's basically, built on, it's very like, if you were to read through the left-hand side, that's their newsletter. So in connection with the partnerships and the networking, the promotion of the program is really big too. So that's how they get a lot of their, people on board. So it mentions all the programs, and when you read through, you read about like articulation agreements and dual enrollment and, experiences for students to go out to the community and work. And it's a lot of things that we're, doing with our pathways here in our CTE program. So it's great to see like the alignment between the two. This is just more focused on the particular traits. And we'll share this presentation will be linked to the minutes, so you'll be able to go through that. But one just added comment is that both Gateway Regional and Roxbury have both taken advantage of the industries and the type of companies that are primarily located in their areas, right? So Gateway Regional is, if you're not familiar, it's in southern New Jersey, outside of Camden, Philadelphia. It's a regional high school district. And what they have done is partner, like Bridget was saying, with PSENG has a large facility down there, as well as Philadelphia International Airport. So they have partnered with the various unions that support the airport. So it could be the diesel mechanics, it could be the plane, like the aviation guys who work on the planes, the grounds crew. So they've actually even built model semi, but larger, so not actual jetliners, but like two-person airplanes at their school as part of their mechanics training. The students actually go over to the airport and get jobs and internships at the airport in those different industries and fields. Some of them go on to be pilots, some of them go on to work more, again, like the ground crew type jobs. But obviously, again, they're taking advantage of industries in their area. Roxbury, when we talk about them, you'll see the same thing. So that's what we're basically going out and seeing how other districts have taken advantage of opportunities that exist for their students in their immediate area or somewhat in their vicinity, and how we could possibly replicate those types of opportunities here in Middlebury.
Is there anybody that's actually working with companies in the area to try to formulate relationships with
Yes,
some
that's
of
what
those?
Bridget's doing right now.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And are they, like, the students in Camden, they're allowed to go to Philadelphia to?
So it's either part of their internship, sometimes the class goes, and other, like when we talk about Roxbury, what we'll talk about there, how they've kind of done a reverse model where they bring the experts in to the school, into the classroom, and they're working as almost like skilled tradesmen, teaching the students as apprentices.
I know that there was a boating company that was offering to take intern kids from schools, like where they did like engine building, and it was a really big name company. But I was told that it was shot down because it was out of state.
It was in Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts,
Yeah,
okay. So is that too far away? Is that because we're?
Well, it wouldn't allow for even a weekly, say,
Okay.
So that's, we're looking for industries, for companies
In
more
the
in
area.
our area.
Okay.
I would say even like Newark wouldn't be outside of our
Sure.
possibility, so
Right.
working with like the Port Authority or Newark Airport.
Right.
We've talked about taking advantage of the fact that we, obviously live along the seacoast here, we have the Port Newark, and there's a lot of unions and jobs, that go along with there, with the longshoremen. So just, we're kind of branching out from there. Now Roxbury, they have, up in North Jersey, a lot of their industry is revolving around the lumber, cabinet mill, like the mills, so I don't want to step on Bridgette's toes, but you'll see their focus is more on, and structural engineering design, like architecture, actual framing, woodworking, construction, more construction trades. So if you want to talk about that.
And just in regards to the other program, it did seem amazing, it was just that it was out of state,
Too far away.
so that when I called the DOE and talked to them about it, they wouldn't recognize like the credits for the students to carry over for, they call it like a structured learning experience or work-based learning experience. So that was part of the difficulty.
Okay, no, I heard it, I thought it was an amazing opportunity.
Yeah,
They'll
I
maybe
did
fund, if it was a funding thing, maybe fundraising could be done for room and board for the kids or something like that.
Yeah, I know more just about the credits of like how it would carry over from it being like an out-of-state opportunity for the students.
Okay, thanks.
So yes, this is what, we got to visit Roxbury. We did an initial, virtual conference with them, and it was an amazing program to hear about it, skills trades program. And I don't know if any of you have seen, but they've kind of been all over the news. They were on Fox 5, actually I have the video in here, but we got to meet with the teacher, the assistant superintendent, and the director for that particular area. And they shared, information regarding like the budgets and like what materials they needed and how they started up, and any challenges they had in starting up the program, and how they took this space and they converted it into this skilled trades room. And if you could see here, it was a really great idea. They built these like garage doors here, but then when they open those garage doors, it goes out to the house that they're building, the students are building. So, it's really convenient that the house that they're building, it's in partnership with Habitat for Humanity, is right on site. So they just walk out the door and they go, and that's where they complete like their work-based learning opportunity. They put a lot of time into that partnership. I know they say they do a lot of the like heavy lifting, but the students really find it to be such a meaningful experience because they are eventually someone in that particular community will, be a resident and, own, be part of that home. So, I just wanted to try to give a vision because, before I went, I was kind of like, well, what does like a skilled trades classroom look like? What would you include in it? And, they had lots of like, they talked about like the different tools and materials they use. They are supported, some of the things they use are out of the Tom Summers, the gentleman I originally mentioned, the curriculum for the carpentry program. So they, they use those as like kind of like the resources that they have. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. I would just say, for those of us who are old enough to remember the old woodshop classrooms, it's not like that. It is completely different. It's much more modernized. They're able to also have the robotics classes operate out of a small section of that space. They have the 3D printing available alongside with the more traditional type tools you would expect carpenters, woodworkers to use. But it's not your typical woodshop class.
And I can add, it's not even like a typical vocational wood shop class or construction class, because there they do build a structure, but it's usually like a smaller, like a shed-sized house, and they do get to practice the trade. But here, not only do they practice the trade, they're making something that's going to be taken and put on a foundation and be used by a family. So therefore, they need to go through the whole permit process, the inspection process. They're learning construction, every aspect, not just how to use the tools and, measure and, nail things up. They really are learning the business, so that was really impressive.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work though, because it's very expensive to build a house. Habitat for Humanity is really not funding them. They're going out and getting donations. They are working themselves to get donations, and it's a lot of work. to do that. You'll see that box of cabinets there, they were just donated, that up on the left-hand corner, they were saying that's the cabinets for the home. You know, everything they tried to get donated, but some of the stuff does come out of the school budget, but it's, you know, it's helping the students, you know, learn, so.
Yeah, a lot of the costs that come out of the school budget are those consultants that I was talking
Yeah.
about, where they do like the reverse process of, instead of the students going out to, say, a home site or a community that's being developed, again, they're building the home on school grounds, and then it's more like a modular, it's actually in 2 pieces, we went in it. And then they'll have it moved and shipped and placed on the foundation. But they bring in an electrician, a plumber, they'll bring in all those skilled trades, people.
They need them.
They need them.
You can't get a permit. You know, you have to work under a licensed electrician to get a permit and do the work in a house for electric and plumbing.
So that's where they bring those people in to work with the students and teach them those skills.
So the teacher he's amazing. You know, he's the one who went out and kind of like, you know, goes out and makes the connections and, you know, gets all of the donations made. He's who we're talking to there. And then just if you like, if right next to those file cabinets there.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I thought maybe if I clicked on the picture.
That's okay. Right next to those file cabinets is where Kim was just talking about. We walked into, it's just designed very well. Like you walk right into the robotics room, which is like connected, so they have use of that room too, if they need. And then, you know, I wanted to kind of show you the pictures first, but then, Kim, if you do go down to the next slide, 6. Trying to.
Can I ask you a
Like,
quick
first one,
question?
yes. First one.
I mean, this is amazing. It's, I mean, I love the whole concept, but when you start talking about facilities and space, how do we, where do we get that? I mean, do we
You
use?
have to be real creative.
That's part of the long range plan.
It's not even the space, it's the cost to create
Renovate
the space. I mean,
Right.
it'll probably be close to $2 million to do something like that, so, you know, there's a lot of investment to be put in, so that's why we're looking at different schools, seeing how they did it, but we're really impressed with what some schools.
Yeah. And again, what our students are interested in
Yeah.
and what industries
Yeah.
our area supports. Again, this works for Roxbury
Right.
because they are a huge area that has companies and businesses that support that type of skilled trade. Again, down in South Jersey, they're working more with the airport and with PSE&G and other
And
businesses.
what is it, supply chain, because there's a lot, they're by the turnpike, and there's a lot of, you know, supply chain businesses, you know, big warehouses and stuff there.
Yeah, it really depends, that's a key point, where the program is, like in my former district, like we had, like biomedical was like a really, CT everyone wanted to take, but then we looked at global logistics, which is that supply chain, and we thought it would do really, really well, and, you know, the students didn't have a lot of interest in it, so that's why it's really important, that kind of as we started, that we get that student survey out there and see what the students want and what, you know, their interests are, yes.
Would the vision be to have the program housed like either at North or South or both? Or
We
would it
haven't
be,
gotten that far yet.
like, could you use the Port Monmouth building?
Yeah, well, we haven't really gotten that far yet because we're still just at the stage of seeing what types of opportunities or programs or even options are out there and talking to the state about how they would recognize that type of program.
Okay. Would we be expected as a district to fully fund the outfitting or whatever, or is there potential for grants or whatever?
There's potential for
Yeah,
grants, but
okay.
again, it depends on what program you're
pursuing,
Yeah, like right now, we're pursuing the business CTE pathway, and that will place students in internship experiences with vast different types of businesses. Ones that go right from, you can walk out of high school and land a job, to maybe you go to a 2-year community college and you need, you know, training in that, to that respect and to get a job, up to and including 4-year type experiences like accounting or other things like that. I was trying to keep track of like how hands were going up. Your hand was actually up first, but did your question get answered?
Yes.
And then I think it was Christine.
Hi. Couple of questions. Did we look at Brookdale and perhaps doing some type of dual enrollment? Because they have a lot of trade programs.
We have talked to them in the past about that, especially the automotive.
They have a linesman training
Pathway that
as
they
well.
just
Yeah,
created.
they're just starting the linesman, PSE&G.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
Yep.
that, yeah.
We've been talking to them.
because that's a way that we could, save some money and capture something else for
Yep.
the kids to
So
do.
students will have to pay tuition, that's a little caveat, so,
Right.
that might be something that blocks them from doing
Gotcha.
it, so it's great.
But it would probably be cheaper for the district to pay the tuition than it would be to build a giant facility for 6 kids to go through a program like that. Just a possibility.
And it depends, because sending them there wouldn't be until probably their senior year, because in order to take Brookdale classes, you have to have some prerequisite work done. And our teachers can't teach those classes unless Brookdale requires that any instructors we have a master's degree in that, subject. So if it is something in a skilled trade, there aren't a lot of teacher certifications, K-12, that would support, teaching in a public school with a master's degree in that area. So it's a little trickier.
Okay.
But yeah, we've been talking to them. We have, even pre-2020, we've been talking to them about that.
Would the
Right.
vocational schools that are already in place have anything to do with this? Like, I don't really know what the relationship is between our district and the vocational schools. Is there any overlapping?
Well, like our students, there's shared time and there's full-time vocational students. So the district pays the tuition for those students to attend whatever program they have. Say it's cosmetology, a student wants to go to cosmetology, they apply, they get accepted, they go to school for part of the day, whether it's the morning or the afternoon, based on the year, that they're in. And then they take a bus and go to their vote for the rest of the day. And the district pays for that. But vote would not provide us money to do something like this. That would be on us. And we do have students who don't want to go to vote, they don't want to leave the school, they want to stay in the school setting. They want to take a class or two, they don't want to every day leave and not be able to eat lunch with their friends and that type of thing. So that's another reason we're looking into some of these. Because there is a wide range of opportunities, I'll tell you, in both. I mean, there's law enforcement, like I said, cosmetology, all kinds of construction trades, mechanics. I mean, they do have a broad range of opportunities for students. And we do promote them with our students.
The difference is, with the vocational programs, they're usually very singular in focus.
Yes.
For example, next year they're gonna be launching a welding, vocational program, but it's just welding. Whereas these classes, because we're a comprehensive public public school district, our classes would be more rounded and introduce students to multiple areas of skilled trade.
Would it be possible to tap into people who maybe like retired in the industry to come in, like say if the guy is a master's and he comes from the building trade, hire him as like a substitute teacher, him or her that, on that basis?
Well, that's why they have them, that's what I was saying before, a lot of the budget, that's the district monies that support these programs is in those consulting fees. So that's what Roxbury does. They have a man who is semi-retired right now, who owned his own construction firm, who has a master's degree in architecture and construction, and he serves as their main consultant for the project, which the project is basically the course, right? It's broken down up into units, with the final outcome being obviously the whole house being constructed. So, and then they have other consultants that support the various independent phases of it, like Mary Ellen was saying, electrical, plumbing, that kind of stuff. But we're just, again, we're still exploring. We're trying to see how other districts have taken advantage of major industries or businesses in their areas to then get an idea of, okay, and with Bridget, also talking to people in our area of what is possible.